Hi, I'm Andy Jones, content editor for Plaid's online education program, Let's Paint. And in today's Skill Builder, we're going to do some magic. We're going to transform ordinary acrylic paint into fabric paint using FolkArt's Textile Medium. Textile Medium is an incredible product. It lets you turn any acrylic paint into fabric paint. And I'm going to show you the way that I like to use FolkArt Textile Medium. The directions on the label say to mix 2 parts textile medium with your paint, and you would put that together with, mix that together with a palette knife. I tend to use it a little bit differently than that. I have a heart-shaped motif that's transferred onto a piece of white cotton fabric that I'm going to demonstrate on, but I want to let you know that I have a piece of waxed paper underneath. You always want to paint on top of a waxed surface so that anything that bleeds through doesn't bleed through to the other side. If you're painting on a shirt or any kind of object, you want to stop the paint from going through more than one layer of fabric. All right, so what I like to do is to take a brush and simply paint the area with the textile medium and let the textile medium penetrate the fabric. I got a little bit of dirty color in my brush, which is going to be okay. So we're going to cover that up. Stay within your design and just gently brush the textile medium into the fabric. This does a couple of things. It saturates the fabric with the textile medium, and the textile medium will keep your acrylic paint nice and soft. If you've ever gotten a spot of acrylic paint onto your fabric that you didn't want it on, you know that that can be somewhat stiff and crusty. But using the textile medium will prevent that. So I'm loading my brush with Parisian Pink FolkArt acrylic paint, and I'm going to apply that on the left side of my heart motif. And I'm just going to let that blend into the wet textile medium. And because the textile medium has saturated the fabric, it's going to allow you some extra working time. Some people like to use a paintbrush that is a little stiffer when they paint on fabric, just to help work the paint into the fibers. I find if you're working on a relatively smooth weave fabric that you don't need that extra stiffness. If you've got a coarse weave fabric, then of course that extra stiffness just makes it a little bit easier to get the paint down into the fabric weave. Just work neatly and carefully as you apply your color. I'm going to wipe my brush on a paper towel, and I'm going to pick up some bright red acrylic. This is FolkArt's Naphthol Crimson. This seems a little bit thicker to me, so I'm just going to add a little bit of textile medium and brush mix it in. It's perfectly fine to use that to thin your paint down. And then I'm going to apply this in the center of the heart. And because I'm working on a damp fabric surface, I'm going to have time to blend. So I'll wipe the excess red out of my brush and just take a minute to blend and soften the red into the pink. All right, now wipe that paint out of my brush, and notice that I'm not using any water with this. You do not want to thin down your paint with water. If you need to thin your paint down, use the textile medium and mix it in with your paint, and that will thin your paint enough that you don't need to add water. So I'm going to begin to apply this on the right-hand side of my heart motif. And again, you just want to work neatly and carefully. This is one of those times when you can't go back and just erase some extra paint that might have gotten outside of your design lines. And now I'm going to carefully turn my heart around so that it's easier and more convenient for me to paint from this direction. And I'm going to just pat that color in, wipe the excess color from my paintbrush, and then begin to blend the burgundy into the red of the heart. You've still got time to work because your textile medium has not dried. Remember, we saturated the fabric with that before we got started. I'm going to pick up just a little bit more of the Napthal Crimson on my brush and add that into the center of the heart and blend that out into the true burgundy acrylic. This is just an easier way for me to paint on fabric using the FolkArt Textile Medium to make sure that the surface is saturated and easy to paint on and have your paint blend into it. When you've finished painting your design, you're going to need to heat set it. But before I talk about heat setting, let's just go over some technical things about painting on fabric. You need to pre-wash your fabric. Your best results will be on a cotton or cotton blend fabric, and you should pre-wash that and then dry it using no fabric softener. Then paint your design, and when your design has been dry for 24 hours, you want to put a pressing cloth on top of your design, set your iron to the hottest setting for any given fabric that you're using, then press your iron onto the painted area, wait 30 seconds, lift the iron up and move it to another area, press it down for another 30 seconds, and repeat that process until you have the entire item heat set. When you need to launder your item, you always want to use the gentle cycle and cool water. My personal recommendation is that if it is hand painted, you should hand wash it. So just keep that rule of thumb in mind. But this way, you can turn any acrylic paint into a great fabric paint using FolkArt Textile Medium.